So technical session number 30. Last one we talked about synchronization. Now we're going to be talking about some common issues across mobile devices in general and some ways that we can begin the troubleshooting process and working towards resolving them. So our objectives, pretty simple in this one, we're going to be identifying common issues that users may experience with mobile devices and describe some of the likely ways to resolve those common issues. And I know what y'all are thinking. Is there a way we can practice some of this? Well, you're in luck. There are mobile labs and test out, so you're welcome. All right. So behavior skills and mindsets we want to keep in mind for this particular one: persistence and adaptability. Persistence is probably one of the more crucial ones for this course because we can't have the expectation that we're going to succeed every single time. We can't believe that if we fail once, we're just not cut out for this. I didn't do great on my test. I guess I'm just not meant for IT. It's not how this works. We don't succeed, we get up, we dust ourselves off, and then we try again, try harder, try something different. Especially in studying, it's not necessarily how long or hard you study, but how effective your study methods are. You need to find what works for you because everybody's different. What connects with me doesn't necessarily connect with Rachel, doesn't connect with DW. When I went over like my reading method for absorbing technical data, which is that 5-pass method, DW rolled his eyes and said, there is no way I'm doing that. And that's fine. He found a method that works for him. But also understand the methods that work for you may not be the things that you like the most. We're not looking for the things that we find the most enjoyable. We're looking for the things that are the most effective in getting that information into our brains, right? The methods I choose for myself are hands down not the most enjoyable for me, but I know over time, this is what allowed me to be the most efficient in my studies. So I spent the least amount of time possible sitting down with a book in front of me, grinding away. I had to be efficient because, you know, we got lives to live, right? Family, friends, jobs, you know, none of us have the luxury of 23 hours a day being able to sit in front of a book and just study nonstop. So we got to be efficient. All right. All right, so here we go. Typical common device, mobile device, common issues we'll be talking about 17 of them. We'll be going over from time to time. Display issues, can't display to external monitors, sticking keys, stop eating at your desk, intermittent or no wireless, so on and so on and so on. We'll go through it. So Cynthia, the reason I do that is so when I scroll back through the chat, it's easy to find where I put the links. So I spam the links in chat. When I scroll back, I can quickly find that link, grab it again, and repost it if I need to. It's more of a convenience mechanism and speed. So we'll be kind of going through these here a little bit. Display issues. So displays, typically you have some form of backlight behind it unless you're using an OLED. This is powered, if it's powered through an inverter, if we see an inverter, what do we know? If we hear the word inverter, what is it?
LCD.
Is it? It is an LCD, but what else? Tell me more about it.
Oh.
TN.
Oh, hold on.
If you hear the word inverter, it should start instantly telling you certain things about it.
It's an older monitor?
Older monitor, yes. Eric.
CCFL?
I think the inverter is supposed to convert AC to DC for the monitor.
Think
Supposed
we
to
lost
convert
Kelly.
power for the monitor because else
CCFL, excellent.
yeah, LCD displays have a certain fluorescent light that they have to power, so the inverter
Correct.
does that for it.
So it converts it from DC because all the components in our computer use direct current, right?
Right.
AC is what comes out of the wall. And when it comes out of the wall and it hits our power converter, the power converter switches everything to DC because that's what everything needs. But a singular component in a backlight, which is the CCFL, needs AC. So it needs to be inverted back from DC back to AC.
Yeah.
So,
man, I'm so
excellent.
happy that I remembered that.
See, some of it's sticking. You just, sometimes,
Yeah.
like, again, you're drinking from a fire hose and you don't really see it at first, but it's sticking. It's getting there.
Yeah. Like I'm starting to realize I'm actually remembering a lot of stuff now.
You're not just listening to a crazy person rant for hours at a day. There is a purpose, I promise. Yes, Brianna.
So the inverter is AC to DC, right?
Yes, inverter is DC to AC. Power supply is AC to DC.
I used the bands, remember, but I didn't know there was a reverse order for it. So I'll write that down.
There you go. And it's good reference too. Probably one of the least crazy things to come out of Australia, I guess. All right. Babukar.
And you also use the inverter to invert like the electric power, like from different countries. Let's say you go to Europe and then you want to use your computer, you can use an inverter to just plug into the computer without even switching the, like,
correct,
turning from 110 to 220 or 220 to 110. You can use an inverter and it will do that.
Absolutely. Yes, good point. So when you do travel with electronics, was it Cynthia yesterday talked about going to traveling overseas and then her phone just stopped working when she plugged it in?
Yes, it's still dead even now. Once I graduate from this class, I'll try to fix it myself, Kelly.
It works. I mean, it depends on what was damaged. If it was just the battery, you may be okay because you can replace the battery relatively easily. All right. So if the inverter goes bad, you get this distinctive hissing sound from the monitor. And when it finally goes out, you'll get like almost like a popcorn sound, and then you get a fun little display of blue smoke out the back of the monitor. It's pretty impressive. But usually an inverter going bad, they talk about a distinctive hissing sound. So that's what when you hear that, if it's on an older laptop, it's an inverter going bad. So before you assume that your inverter or that your display has gone bad or the backlight is fried, make sure the brightness isn't turned down. So let's check the simple stuff first. General rule of troubleshooting, you start with the least invasive method first. Some of us may be hardware people out there. No, I kind of am. You really want to get to, take the machine apart and actually get in there and work on it, but we may not need to. So let's check the simple stuff first. Start with what's called the least invasive solutions first, and then slowly work towards more invasive things. So see if the screen brightness is turned down. The function button on the laptop, and then you have looks like a little sun icon on there. They have a little one and a big sun, and then you just turn it up, see if that fixes your problem. A lot of times it does. If the auto, they have a little light sensor, especially on like iPads and phones and stuff like that. If you're using your phone at night, you notice how the dimness on the phone comes down because you don't need that super bright light when you're working in the dark. So usually it has an auto dim setting that will tone it down, but sometimes we'll go in and turn it down a little bit more just because it's more comfortable for our eyes. But then we forget that we've overridden the auto sensing. And then when we go to a brighter room, we can no longer see the device. It looks like the screen's not even on, or you can barely make it out. So the brightness will change. You might be able to affect it that way. Works pretty quick. The lid on your laptop, there's a little button in there that senses whether or not the laptop has been opened or closed. If there's some dust or debris that has gotten in there, it may keep the button depressed even after you've opened it. So the laptop internally thinks the lid is still closed, but it's not. So please make sure that that button is free of debris. More and more laptops are kind of getting away from that little latch, but still some of the larger laptops, more of the Windows machines and stuff still utilize them. So that's the main thing before we start going in and ripping out an inverter or changing a backlight or anything like that. Flickering. If a laptop screen or a screen is flickering, what do we know about it already?
CCFL.
CCFL. Why?
LED, OLED, they don't flicker. Only
Excellent.
LCD.
LEDs don't flicker. They're either on or off. So CCFLs, think of like the big annoying lights that you had in school, the big, bar lights that they had up there, and they had that real annoying hum and they flickered all the time. Same thing, smaller scale in the backlight of a laptop. All right. So there can also be an issue with the graphics card. So if you've updated your software in your computer and it's not really working with the graphics card, it may cause issues where it's turning on and off or whatnot. So one of the first things you may want to check, make sure the drivers on your graphics card are up to date, ready to go. I believe we just did a lab on that. I think I worked on that with, was it Steven yesterday? So there is a lab where you update the drivers on your graphics card. So make sure your drivers are up to date and see if that helps. If you're getting the slow waves of like dark bars across your screen, you probably have your refresh rate set too low. Go in, make sure it's set to the native resolution for the screen, at least, and that should resolve that issue as well. So the brightness is a common one, Francis. I love the eye roll in the process of it. So yeah, like if you're working at night, in a darker room, you may turn the brightness down. When I used to work early mornings and I was in logistics, I came in, I was literally the first person in the building. I came in at between like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't turn on any lights in the office. I just worked at my desk because it was just more comfortable for me in the lower light, but I did have to turn the brightness down on my monitors because it would be more of a strain to watch them. So, all right, next, cannot display to an external monitor. First, compatibility. Is that something that your system can even do? Can it communicate with these types of monitors? What have you? Once that is checked, cables. Always check your cables. Make sure they're seated properly, they're secured, and then, most critically, cables have two ends. So make sure you're checking both sides of the cable. So compatibility is not the issue. There's usually a key combination on a laptop. There's usually like an FN key, and then there's like a little box up on your function keys that may allow you to project to an external monitor. It usually has 3 functions where it will go to the external monitor, it'll go to turn it off and come back to yours, or it'll do both. Some people, when they're doing presentations, may turn off their monitor and just have the projector up and running. And then when they come back to their desk, they forget about that. And then they go just turn their laptop and all of a sudden their monitor's not working. They don't know what to do. So make sure you check your function keys first. Make sure that that has been tried before you see if there's another issue with the display that you have. Windows also allows sometimes you press the window button and the P key to bring up a dialog box to choose which display you wish to use. And whether you want to have a mirror display, just display on the external monitor, or what's called an extended desktop, which just basically gives you more real estate. Yep, that's true. The other thing is the types of ports needed. So say, remember when we talked about the DVI cable, right? And how it could be digital, analog, or both, right? Well, the important thing to remember, if it's both, the cable doesn't convert the signal. So if you send digital out one side, the other side has to be receiving digital. If you send out analog on one side and it can only receive digital, then it's not going to work. It doesn't convert the signal. It just allows you to use one or the other. And that's what they mean by the interchange. So if you have that and they're not set to the same standards, then the display won't go through. So you need to make sure they are compatible. They're, if you're using a DVI, making sure that either they're both digital or they're both analog. Questions so far? Bubblegum.
Oh, will this also be a problem? Because I've realized like the pressure on the hinges, the laptop hinges, like usually, that's where the wire for this LCD goes through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, some laptops, like the closing and opening of the lid might affect the screen. Even turning on, sometimes it will freeze, and you might look like you might look at all places and never find what the issue is. But it's usually on the hinges. Yeah, there's a small wire that goes through it, and closing it and opening it sometimes kind of puts a pressure to the wires, and that can affect the screen.
Okay.
Sometimes it might
or
freeze,
over time it can be damaged because that pivot point on the laptop is such a vulnerable spot for any technology that passes through it. So, that may be it as well. So excellent point, Boca. All right, sticking keys. Don't eat at your desk. Mostly this is with regular keyboards, not so much in the mobile area as often, but it does happen. So they sit flat on the desktop. They're vulnerable to collect dust, dirt, debris, spilled liquids, coffee with sugar in it. It's the worst thing. Soda. Any of these things over time gets in there, builds up, causes the keys to kind of stick and not function as they are supposed to. On rare occasions, the mechanical pieces, components in there may wear out, but it's more often dust, debris, and other gook getting in there and sticking the keyboards down. Mobile devices, the keyboard is built into the device. So if you're having issues, you have two basic options. One is attach an external keyboard. This is usually a quick fix to get somebody back up and running until the other solution can be implemented if you so choose. And then with the replace it term, there's two things that they mean by that. You can either replace the keyboard, which depending on the make and model of laptop you have, can either be relatively easy or a royal pain because you quite literally have to remove everything from the laptop to get to the actual keyboard. In which case, depending on the cost of the laptop, if it's like a 10-year-old laptop and you're going to replace it with another 10-year-old laptop and they're paying you $60, $80 an hour to work on it, the cost of you working on that thing for a couple hours to solve it and the parts involved may be more expensive than actually just giving them a new laptop and then transferring the data over and going on with your day, and maybe getting rid of that laptop or sending it off to be refurbished. There you go. Yep. Sometimes look at the obvious because, yeah, they're not, yeah, when you're dealing with people who are having technical problems, they may not tell you the truth. So fair point, especially if they know they did something wrong, they likely will not tell you the truth. Did you have another question, Babacar, or are you good? All right, so
I'm sorry.
bad keyboard, replace it or attach an external. Again, the attach the external is your quick fix. So like if you got a lot of stuff going on, somebody shut down, can't work because the keyboard's not working, run an external keyboard over there, plug it in, they're back up and running, and at least can continue to do their job until another determination can be made whether or not you want to replace it, you know, replace the actual keyboard or give them a new computer, or just ride, like if they don't take the computer home at all, just ride with the external keyboard. All right. Next, intermittent or no wireless. So most wireless problems is usually caused by interference from other signals. A lot of Wi-Fi, you know, granted this is kind of changing, but Wi-Fi, older Wi-Fi tends to operate off of what's called the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. So things like wireless phones, not cell phones, we're talking old school wireless phones that would be hooked up to a landline in the building. So wireless phones also operate on the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, so can interfere if they're on similar channels with the Wi-Fi antennas in the building. The other big thing that ironically operates off of 2.4, microwaves. So if you're dealing with an office and around lunchtime, everybody starts, you know, there's certain people start complaining that their Wi-Fi always goes out at the same time of day. And then the lunchroom is in between where they are and the Wi-Fi antenna. And around that time, everybody's going in and heating up their lunch. The microwave's causing interference. So microwaves also operate on 2.4. So that can cause signal disruption. Yes.
Kelly, I have a question. I don't know if it's IT related or not. The controversy about microwaves. Does the thing actually do get in the food or not? You know, the waves that they used to say, oh, don't use microwave, it goes in your food and you eat it and you get cancer. I still don't know whether or not it's true, or is it not a technical question? I don't know.
I have never read any studies on that, so I actually wouldn't know either way.
Okay.
I know that microwaves are pretty much a huge part of most culinary, like you go to any kind of restaurants or, you know, a lot of cooking at home, microwaves tend to be used a lot. So I'm not sure, I haven't read any literature on that, so I can't speak one way or the other.
All right.
So we can talk later.
Okay. I'm open to learning.
You can answer that, Rachel? Rachel, did you say you can answer that later?
I said we can talk later.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, yeah, it is a radio wave that's pushing it through, but yeah. All right. Any case. So other things that it may be is there's too many devices trying to talk to the same antenna. Now, the way the antennas work is, especially, I mean, they're starting to solve this problem, but it's still not a perfect solution. Only one device can speak at a time. So if too many devices are trying to talk, it's going to cause, you know, signal disruption. It's going to slow down your bandwidth, all that kind of fun stuff. So, you know, limit the number of devices per antenna, or you put up more antennas, and then you can actually, you know, on the device, limit how many you'll allow to connect at any given time. So it forces others to connect to other antennas. Another thing is check the wireless antenna itself, make sure it is seated correctly. If it is slightly unseated, it may have intermittent issues as well. Or if the antenna is damaged, it may work better sometimes, less than others. And that is for intermittent. So it works sometimes, doesn't work others. Maybe you're not getting good throughput, what have you. No wireless at all, no signal at all. One of two things. Either your wireless has been disabled, so make sure your device is not on airplane mode. This happens way more often than you think, where people will go on a trip, turn on airplane mode, and then forget about it later. So make sure the wireless is not disabled. The other is the antenna itself is not functioning. So they do make USB Wi-Fi antennas. You can plug one in as a quick fix, see if that works. And if that works, but it doesn't work without it, likely you have a damaged antenna. And then you make the determination, do you want to replace it, the antenna, or do you want to replace the device, or do you just want to use the external Wi-Fi antenna? That's another option as well.
How difficult is it to replace an antenna?
Well, it goes up. You have to open up almost the whole laptop because it goes through the clamshell and then it goes up and around the entire monitor. So your hope is that you open it up and the antenna just came unplugged, like it became dislodged and you just have to reconnect it. That's your hope. But can it be done? Yes, it can be done. But again, you're in the risk of damaging. What is the most potentially damaged item on a laptop monitor or a flat screen monitor?
Bezel.
The bezel.
Bezel. Excellent. So that little thin piece that frames out the entire monitor, you run the risk of damaging that and other components as you would anytime you open it up. But yes, you can do it. It's not as onerous as, say, keyboards sometimes, but typically if I'm doing a repair on a mobile device, be it a laptop, be it a phone, be it a tablet or whatnot, I usually read the documentation and then try to find the video of somebody doing it. And not one of the 2-minute videos where they're like, oh, it's easy, you just do this, 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 and this, and they skip over all of the really annoying parts. You know, car repair videos are notorious for this, where they're like, okay, now we're going to take this off. And then they skip over the hour of the guy like wrestling with the part, trying to get it off of there. And then it's like, okay, now it's free. And all you got to do is unplug it. Try to find a video where they don't do cutaways, where they literally will show you the whole repair. And then you can see if that's something that you feel technically you're up to the task, especially in the beginning. After a while, when you become comfortable, they're like, yeah, I can handle it. But your first couple, you're going to be a little nervous about doing it. No joke, when the battery issues came out with the iPhones, that was my first mobile repair, was to replace the batteries in the iPhones. So I was like, okay, I can handle this. And I do mine. And 10, 15 minutes, it goes perfectly. Turn it back on. Everything went great. I was like, man, that's awesome. I got this. And then I go grab my wife's and I sit down, I do hers, and it won't go back together. And like, when I finally do get it together, the screen's not working. It's just all jumbled, stuff like that. And I take this thing apart 10 different times and it's still not going together. I think I got a bent pin, all that fun stuff. And like all of her work stuff is on this phone. And so it was like 10 to 15 tries, finally get it back together and then got it working. But it was quite stressful and I got overconfident because mine went so swimmingly. So the first couple of times you're going to be nervous, you're going to make mistakes, but you get better with practice. All right. Ghost cursor or pointer drift. This is another fun one. So ghost cursor, you see double cursors. This can be like if your trackpad gets overheated or damaged, it can cause the ghost cursor where you see two of them. This happens, you set the laptop to hibernate or sleep when the lid closes. Let it cool down and see if that resolves it when you open it up. Try disabling the trackpad using just a normal mouse to see if that solves that problem. Also try updating the drivers in the trackpad, make sure. If that works, then you're good to go. Pointer drift. The cursor is slowly drifting across the screen on its own. Has anybody ever had this happen? Usually happens if you have one of those little pointer sticks that sits there between the G and the H. It's really annoying. The calibration on it goes off, and then it just kind of like slowly just kind of cruises off to the side as you're sitting there. Recalibrate your mouse. That tends to fix it. If you're using multiple monitors, change some of your display properties, see if that helps fix it, but it's usually a calibration issue on the mouse. that she can fix. Also can be software related if it was a recent update. And then there's the fun one of the cursor jumping. The cursor just randomly jumps to another point of the screen. Anybody ever have that happen to them on a laptop? No? It's a common one. So you've had it. What was the cause of that, Babukar?
The collaboration is off.
It's not the calibration. This isn't like slowly drifting. It's like jumping to another point in the screen.
I think it was the settings, the speed of the mouse. The mouse
Wasn't
speed.
the settings. Well, I mean, it may have been in your case, but typically what it is it's poor typing technique. So people are resting their palms on the bottom of the laptop and their palms are touching the trackpad and it's causing the cursor to jump around. So
I used to do that all the time.
There you go. So if, you know, if it's not an issue of poor, you know, it's not something technical, this is a user error issue. So what you can do at that point is disable the trackpad. If they don't use the trackpad normally, you can disable the trackpad and it will make it so that the cursor doesn't jump around. If they use the trackpad as their primary one, they need to keep their palms lifted up off when they type, which is proper technique. It's better for your wrist, less chance of getting carpal tunnel. Then that will solve the issue. So that's typically what it is. They like to ask about that one, so you know. Bluetooth mouse, that would be a different issue when you're, you know, bumping it and it's just not registering and then it registers it later or there's a delay. So, all right, no power. So when we don't have them plugged in, they're obviously running on battery power. So if you have no power, is the device plugged in or not? If it's not plugged in, possibly the battery died. Unfortunately, some of the batteries over time have less and less efficacy and may not hold as much of a charge or planned obsolescence, but we'll talk about that later. But your device may only have, like when you first got it, you had like 8 hours of a charge and now you only get about 30 minutes. So it could be a dying battery. It could be, you know, other issues. Now, if it's plugged in and you're not getting any power, first, try the easy solution. Plug it into a different outlet. Don't assume that the outlet it is plugged into is infallible or there's no problem with it, because it could be just a breaker has blown and it may be that one plug and then plugs on the other side of the wall that you're not seeing that went out. So try a different outlet, just make sure. Could be the port, the connector. I have this happening on my phone. My phone is getting kind of old. So the connector to where I plug it in, it's getting a little loose. So I have to kind of finesse it a little bit to be able to get it to receive power. So it could be the port itself is getting old. It could be damaged because I've seen people, if they regularly pick up their phone and walk off while it's still plugged in and the cable keeps getting snatched out, it will get damaged over time and then not be able to receive power or data. So next, make sure the cord, make sure it's seated properly. If it is plugged in, make sure it's fully plugged in. Cables have two sides. Make sure both are plugged in, especially if you have that bird's nest going on behind the desk where they have like 500 devices. You know, they got 3 fans. They got the mini fridge that cools like 1 can of Coke. You know, they got the coffee mug warmer, all that stuff plugged in behind their computer and all that. Make sure at least the device that you're trying to get plugged in is actually plugged in. All right. Personal heaters. Not so much a problem in Florida. All right. So make sure everything's firmly connected. Try another outlet. If that's all the case and it's still not charging, even if you try finessing a little bit, check and see if the physical port itself is broken. If the physical port is broken, likely it's a device replacement. Yes, Casey.
So this is kind of in lieu with it or not, but keeping a laptop charged always on a cable, does that also mess up the battery? Or
older ones, yes. Now they actually have built-in power management. It will exercise the battery while it's on the docking station or on the charger.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So yeah, older laptops, 5+ years, yes, you can damage the battery doing that. But now they've kind of, like I said, they've incorporated that battery exercising it so that it's working the battery while it's even on the charger. That way it doesn't damage it. All right. So num-lock indicator. Unfortunately, this one does happen a lot as well. Somebody turns on their number lock, forgets to turn it off. On a laptop, that means that you will actually be using the number keys instead of the letters. So they'll say, I'm hitting the K and it keeps giving me an 8. It's because they turned on number lock and have not turned it off, is usually what it is. So function keys allow the laptop keys to do other things because real estate is at a premium. They can't have the giant keyboard with the 10 keypad on the side and all that fun stuff. So they do the best with what they can, but sometimes that tricks up people when they're using them. So it does happen. All right, Bluetooth connectivity. Bluetooth is another radio device. So if it is not able to connect, first, make sure that it is enabled. It's turned on. Sometimes we turn things off. We don't realize we do. I generally run in the camp that you don't always leave Bluetooth on because there's several methods people can actually hack into your phone through your Bluetooth. So I typically leave mine off unless I am specifically pairing with an individual device. If I'm not using that device, I turn it off, but I forget sometimes. I'll just try to pair my device. It's not on. And then after a couple tries, like, oh yeah, go in, turn it back on. Also, same thing to check. Airplane mode. Make sure. On the laptop, Windows machines, you have the function key that you can toggle on Bluetooth right there. Make sure it is turned on. If none of this works, even though it's on and it's not able to, and that device you're trying to pair with it can pair with other devices, no problem, you may have an issue with your Bluetooth antenna. So that also does happen. All right. So thank you, Francis. All right, touchscreen issues. Touchscreens are a major part of our interactions with technology at this point. You know, much more so than a keyboard. I don't know about the rest of you, but for the most part, I will either use a tablet or a phone for most of my things that I do technologically, and I will only go to my computer if I need to do heavy lifting, like typing a document, working on spreadsheets, working on PowerPoints, things like that. But for the most part, I handle almost everything on the tablets or the phones. So touchscreen is exceedingly important. All right, so touch flow, which is a design by HTC, allows the finger to drag up and down. It gives you that scroll feature. They do side to side as well now. And then you have the multi-touch, which allows you to resize for those of us who are visually impaired, to pinch and zoom in or zoom out. If none of this stuff is responsive, it may just be the app you're in. So try closing out that app. If you have like an iPhone, it's dragging it from the bottom left corner, slowly bring it up, and that will allow you to force close the app. That doesn't work. Try restarting the device itself, and that will recalibrate the capacitive touchscreen because it auto recalibrates when you do the start, and that should clear up a lot of those issues. If that doesn't, as we are a drop-prone society, make sure you check the screen for cracks to make sure The phone hasn't been dropped. If the phone has been dropped and there are cracks, the capacitive touch may not function as it should, and it may require a screen replacement. Also, if the device gets wet, it's not going to react properly. So that's another big one. Thankfully, some devices have built-in diagnostics that you can go in and use, and it'll tell you if something is not functioning properly. Maybe drivers need to be updated, whatnot. It will work on that for you or help you with that in the troubleshooting process. Questions so far? All right. Applications not loading. Majority of applications are downloaded through the App Store and Google Play, unless you're side-loading apps. But again, still the vast majority are brought in through these two stores. If it's not opening and it's the first time you're attempting it, maybe it was a failed download. Try deleting it, reinstalling the app, and seeing if that fixes the problem. A lot of times that corrects it right out of the bat. Also, see if you got an error when you download it. Make sure it actually downloaded. So again, to resolve that issue, delete or reinstall. So if the app downloaded, but it will not install or load, try restarting the device. See if that helps you in the process. If it still won't deploy, then you uninstall and reinstall the app rather than just deleting and re-downloading. So you try uninstalling it and reinstalling it, and that'll do it. Another issue may be too much data issue. Like if it's requiring too much data to be transferred, usually files or whatnot over a certain size, they don't like transferring it over cellular networks. So you'll get a warning on this, or they may not let you download it at all. And then in your settings, you can go in, if the apps are data hungry, you can go in and say only run on Wi-Fi or do not use cellular data. There's usually be a toggle that they'll allow you to select that. And you can do this on the app by app basis. So you can do this for individual apps. That way only certain apps you use all the time would be allowed cellular data. Other apps that you may be running in the background, don't allow them to use cellular data. All right. Yes, Nassim.
I just want to say that in the past I used to have an issue with my phone. Some apps wouldn't work just because I had an older version of Android and I could not update it because it was an old phone. And now they're switching to a new phone and every app seems to be working. As simple as that. Yeah.
So they may not support older operating systems.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. And some of the operating systems won't support older apps because I actually had apps that I paid for, which, you know, I spent 99 cents. I should be able to have that thing for life. You know, there's apps I bought like 10 plus years ago. And yesterday I was trying to open up a couple of them just to see, you know, what kind of updates they had and stuff like that. And they won't even function anymore. You know, I mean, so if the app isn't supported by the newer operating systems, they will cease to function as well. So.
I have a problem with my YouTube app. When I'm watching a video, sometimes it'll just close out the whole app for no reason, and it would just bring me to the home screen of my phone. What would cause that?
The app's crashing.
So what would I do to fix that? Reinstall?
Well, you try reinstalling it, but I mean, it's not isolated to you. I hear about that a lot, where you'll be like in the middle of a video and it'll just crash. And it could be that, like say a newer version of the operating system has come out, but YouTube hasn't fixed those bugs. You know, it's a constant process, making sure that they're keeping up with the operating system issues. And the problem with a lot of software is when you fix a problem over here, you unfortunately cause a problem over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe try reinstalling it, see if that fixes it. The other thing it may be is too much memory is being used. So make sure you're closing out apps that you're not using. It'll be shocking to you to see how many things are open on your phone. If you don't regularly close out the applications, and that eats up RAM. You use up too much RAM, it can crash an application or the whole device. So that would be another thing you might try as well.
All right, I'll try those. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bad kernel. Is that specifically to this one, Francis?
No, but in the realms of like needing certain updates, sometimes it is just a bad kernel, and that's what you'd reinstall it or force the update. It's one of the many things that you list.
Correct. Yes. All right. Yeah. All right. Freezing. I love this one. When my phone gets really hot, why does it freeze? So frozen system can occur for many reasons. A lot of things, it could be that it is overheating. Many people don't think about it on our phones, but our phones actually do have vents on them as well that they need for cooling. Also, if you live in a place like Florida, don't leave your phone in your car. It gets to be 150 degrees in there, and that will cook your phone and cause it to freeze. If you're lucky, you just get the little thermometer picture with the frowny face, but you can cause extensive damage to your phone by overheating. If you're listening, if you have a video playing, but you're just listening to it like a podcast and you have it in your pocket, so the screen is on and it's in your pocket, it's now insulated inside your clothing and it's going to overheat even more. So make sure it's not overheating. That's a big one. Other thing, if it is completely frozen or unresponsive and it has nothing to do with heat, it doesn't feel hot to the touch, do a hard boot on the system. So I think for the Apple, it's press the power button and the down volume button, hold it for about 30 seconds, and it'll do a hard reboot on it. Android lovers, what is the key sequence for a hard reboot?
I think it's the down button and the power button.
Okay, so it's similar to the Apple. So it's down and you hold it for like 30 seconds and then it'll do a hard reboot. Yeah. So you can try that and that might free up what's going on. The other thing is completely shutting it down. After the reboot, clears up a lot of that memory cache, much like on your desktop, and clears out all the temporary files. Wonderful. And then it should start to function normally. It just keeps happening. Maybe other things going on. Could be a virus. Could be a bunch of other things. If the device is frozen while texting, turn on airplane mode and then disable it. And that may free it up to be able to continue typing. Basically, you're turning off the communication, turning it back on. All right. Unable to decrypt email. So viewing emails through a browser on your phone can be annoying. And sometimes the mobile versions cannot locate the proper certificate. And essentially what the certificate is it's like a third party that organizations will use that sets up a trust network. It's like, so they're holding on to that certificate and it's basically, I look at that certificate and I say, okay, I trust this other organization. I don't know you, but I trust this other organization and they say you're okay. So we can communicate. That's kind of what the certificates are doing. But they need to be kept up to date because a lot of times they'll have an expiration date on them. And so if there is a CMOS error where your date and time gets reset, it may think it's a different year. And so it will think that the certificate is out of date and not allow you to access. So you need to make sure the date and time is set properly, especially with regards to certificates. Now, assuming all this is kept up to date and we're good, only view the emails in the app, from the email provider itself, not necessarily in the generic mail app that comes with your phone. So if you have something like Proton Mail, which is a encrypted email system, you can go to, they have an application that you can use and you only view it in their application and don't try to associate it with your generic email application on your phone. Other thing you can do is you can set it up to use a smart card with a key that is needed to decrypt. That's another way you can do it. It's like a token or something like that. We'll get into that more when we talk about security though. And then the other thing is make sure SMIME is enabled. Remember, when you hear SMIME, immediately we need to be thinking of encryption. All right. Overheating. We already really talked about this. Don't keep the phones in your car in the summertime. If you're running the screen, don't put them in your pocket. Don't put them in your computer bag if they're still on. Computers need to breathe. So we need to make sure that the vents are not clogged with dust and debris. If they are, we need to clean it out, either using a specialized vacuum or with some compressed air. So we need to make sure the vents are clean and clear. Laptops especially, make sure it's sitting on a flat, hard surface, not on a towel and not on your lap. Because if it is, you're blocking those vents with whatever you're using or a pillow, and that is going to overheat and suffocate the device itself. Yes, the cold can also have a negative effect on batteries as well. So, all right. Also, to kind of prevent from overheating, try to minimize your use while the device is being charged. This is more for your mobile devices like your cell phones and tablets, not so much for a laptop. But cell phones and tablets, try to minimize using them while they're being charged. Because if you're doing that, you're draining the battery at the same time you're charging it and cause it to heat up pretty quickly. Questions so far? Man, we're all mobile experts. I love this. All right, no sound from the speakers. First and obvious answer, make sure volume's turned up. There's another one, and my brother had this one. My youngest grabbed his phone, had it for about 5 seconds, and then my brother left. And a week later, he came back and he said, ever since your kid touched my phone, no sound will come out of my phone. And I was like, all right, hand it to me. I looked at it, handed it back to him. I was like, okay, it's fixed. And he's like, whoa, what'd you do? What'd you do? And just, yeah, it's magic. But it's that little switch on the side, the silent mode switch. Little fingers find it pretty quickly. So there's a little switch on the side that you can toggle back and forth. It'll turn it into silent mode. So make sure silent mode isn't turned on. I don't know if the newer phones still have that as an actual hardware option or if it's only a software thing, but make sure that is also turned on. Check the sound on the applications because you can actually turn the sound down on a specific app. Much like Zoom, as you're in it now, you can have the Zoom turned way up even though your volume is really low, and it can blow out your ears if you're not paying attention. Or it can be really low even though you have your volume really high, and it's not going to help you. So you go into preferences on Zoom and you can adjust the volume app specific to make sure it is set properly. All right. Beyond that, try restarting the device, see if that clears out cache memory, things start functioning properly. Make sure you check for any updates to your sound card. These come out on a regular basis. If nothing else works, you can resort to the King method, which is a system reset. Yes, Babukar.
And make sure the speaker is not disabled, because it can be disabled. You can go to the volume section, right click, and then it will take you to the speaker settings. Most people just disable that. And when you disable it, you can increase your volume or whatever you do is still
this is not going to change it. Yeah. So yeah, in your volume settings, make sure, because you may have individual things turned off. All right. Moving right along. GPS is not functioning. So if the location services does not appear to be working after a restart, then first make sure location GPS is enabled before trying any other solutions. Also make sure the device has either cellular or Wi-Fi connection, especially in the big city, because you likely do not have enough view of the sky to get 3 satellites in line of sight. So you have to use a GPS or cellular assisted GPS where they use cell towers to help triangulate you as well. So you may get 1 or 2 satellites, and then they'll use a cell tower as a third option to kind of triangulate where you are. Make sure the antennas aren't covered, you know, happens. Sometimes if you're in places like parking garages or, you know, big concrete buildings, it can be hard to coordinate your location. And some windshields have UV protection, which also can block the signals from satellites. So certain types of tinting can hinder the GPS from being able to function properly. Yes, that's what we're saying. So the big concrete buildings can interfere with it as well. All right. Swollen battery. I don't know if many of you remember the Explodophones, the Note 6s. Those came out. The batteries would, a chemical reaction would start the battery would start to swell. Sometimes they blow up. Sometimes they catch fire. Big thing about this is if you've hit the swollen battery stage, battery's done at that point. And you need to be very careful with how you handle it because, again, it can catch fire. There have been cases of them blowing up, causing injuries, stuff like that. So you need to be very cautious when dealing with a device with a swollen battery. The key thing is try to prevent it in the first place by using appropriate chargers. Dollar store and gas station chargers are not good quality. And you run the risk of damaging your device. Don't leave your device plugged in all the time. So TA that was working with me during Rachel and DW's cohort, Mark, he got a job swapping out laptops or swapping out a lot of electronic equipment for some insurance companies and resetting up workstations. And he said there was a shocking number of swollen batteries that he had to deal with. And basically he, you know, had to get rid of them. He didn't work on them himself because it was too much of a risk. You know, had to ship them off and get them taken care of. So don't leave the device plugged in all the way. That's one of the big things. Make sure it's stored in a cool, relatively cool environment. Remember, computers like it about, it's like 8 to 10 degrees cooler than we do. So we like it, you know, humans tend to like it around 72 degrees. Computers, they tend to like it around 62. But you start getting into the 80s and 90s, you can cause damage to the batteries. Especially if it's a humid environment like Florida. All right. Now, batteries experiencing short lifespans, planned obsolescence, keeping your brightness maxed out on your phone all the time and your screen on a lot. The screen is a massive drain on your battery. Constantly enabling wireless connections. So even if you're not connected to a Wi-Fi that you normally would, it's still searching for that signal. That searching process drains the battery. Same thing with Bluetooth. It's constantly looking for that signal. And if it's constantly looking for it, it's draining the battery. Background data service, apps running in the background, if you haven't turned them off. It's using processor power, it's draining the battery. So if you're not using it at the time, try to set up a regular schedule with yourself. Do it maybe once or twice a day. Go in, close out all apps you're not using. Close them all out. And they're not draining processor power, they're not eating up RAM, and they're not draining your battery. gives you a lot longer battery life. If you're not at your house and you're not using Bluetooth headphones or whatnot, shut off your Wi-Fi, shut off your Bluetooth. It's not only good for a battery perspective, it's good from a security perspective. All right. Let's see here. If you really get desperate and need to save battery life, turn on airplane mode, though you will lose any cellular service, but it'll at least allow the phone to operate for some time. All right. If none of this helps, it may be time to replace the battery. So it does happen. All right. So we will get into a troubleshooting session. We just strictly go over it, but these are the 6 stages of troubleshooting. We have a whole technical session on this. First thing you always do is identify the problem. Make sure you talk to the customer and you're getting to the root cause. You're not just trying to solve a symptom of a problem. After that, you're going to establish a theory as to what actually is going on. Once you have a theory in mind, you're going to test your theory and make sure that that is what's causing the issue. And then fourth, you're going to plan the fix and resolve the problem. So, and then fifth, and a lot of IT professionals forget this one, verify that you actually solved the problem. You know, the fix did what it was supposed to do. You've solved the problem. And then after that, last and probably one of the most important, document your findings, what you did, so that people who come behind you can see what it takes to solve this problem, and or if the problem reoccurs, they know what didn't work the first time. And sometimes knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do. All right. Oh, we went through that one already. All right. After this, we should now be able to identify some common issues with mobile devices that users do experience on a pretty regular basis and describe some likely resolutions. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, revelations?